So, indeed, that brings up this question again of the Tea Party March on Washington, September 12th. Worth going to if you can introduce a different viewpoint, because it's clear who the speakers are going to be. It's going to be Dick Armey, Newt Gingrich. It's going to be a bunch of Republican hacks and Republican operatives, loudmouth Republican goons, Brooks Brothers goons, and they're going to basically try to hijack this entire movement and turn it into a vote-getting auxiliary of the GOP. And this is just tragic. I would warn people again. I warned you last year, don't be so blinded by your hatred of Bush that you fall into the clutches of Obama. And I repeat it, don't be so blinded by your hatred of Obama that you fall into the clutches of Newt Gingrich, Dick Armey, and indeed ultimately it's going to be Mitt Romney, the asset-stripping hedge fund hyena and union buster who instituted the model for what Obama is now doing in Washington. Right? So this whole idea of partisan divisions, let's think about class divisions. Let's think about who's an oligarch, who's working for Wall Street, and who's not. That's how you see clearly. And obviously Newt Gingrich and Dick Armey are Wall Street operatives, dyed-in-the-wool, cynical manipulators. So there's a good thing. Now, in terms of the hijacking, I think you have to notice that the media coverage of these town hall meetings has been extremely selective. The more reactionary you are, the more of a loudmouth you are, the more they wanted to put you on. I repeat my contention that the majority of the opposition in those meetings is coming from senior citizens who want to keep their Medicare. Get your government hands off my Medicare simply means you, Obama, Wall Street puppet, get your hands off my New Deal, Great Society economic rights institutionalized in Medicare and indeed in Medicaid, because Medicaid is what pays when you're broke and you need a nursing home. Medicaid is what pays for that. Now, what does Dick Armey think about all that? Dick Armey is an arch-reactionary lunatic. He is more Austrian than the Austrians. He thinks that the minimum wage is communism. He thinks that unemployment insurance is communism. Obviously, food stamps, which now support about 12 to 13% of the entire U.S. population, under Dick Armey would have no future. He wants to abolish Medicare, abolish Social Security, abolish Medicaid. He wants to leave you nothing but your eyes to cry with. He will flay you alive, and you will die for the honor of the Austrian school and the free market. So open your eyes. Again, don't be so blinded by the hatred of Obama. You've always got to fight on two fronts. Obviously, one of your main fronts is Obama, that's for sure. And nobody knows that better than I do. And I hope I've shown it in action when others were dithering. And indeed, one of these right-wingers, they're not the ones who put up the birth certificate issue. It was Phil Berg, as you've just heard. But you've also got to fight against these reactionaries. Otherwise, you get rid of Obama, and then you're left to be devoured and flayed alive by Dick Armey, Newt Gingrich, Richard Mellon Scaife, and the reactionary gang. We do have a leaflet which you're invited to download on the ACT Independent website. It's an intervention leaflet into town meetings, and it can be used on September 12th, calling for a Tobin tax. In other words, one of the main things about the health care debate is it's unreal, apart from the question that most of the private insurance that people think they can keep are actually bankrupt companies. The only reason those companies are there is because of the bailout. That would include AIG. That would include Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. That would include the Hartford and most of the rest. If you had let the derivatives crash play itself out a year ago now, September 15th to 18th and following 2009, there wouldn't be any private insurance companies to speak of left, but they're kept there through the TARP, the bailout passed in September, October, but now they need a permanent institutionalized bailout, not only from government, but also directly from you, and that's what Obama is doing. And these characters don't attack Obama for what he does. They attack him for what he doesn't do. This is not a government takeover of health care in the way that they mean it. It is, you can say, the creation of a state-sponsored compulsory cartel, but the effect of the cartel is to prop up these bankrupt companies. They don't tell you that, do they? So watch out for the duplicity and the manipulation of Dick Armey, who has thrived on the stupidity of the masses for many, many decades. Freedom Works is a thoroughly sinister operation, but if they're not, let them prove it. Let them invite Phil Berg to come and speak, the courageous founder of the birth certificate movement. So that's Saturday, September 12th. Find a way to get the birth certificate, which they don't want to talk about, and these other questions, the Tobin tax, the ban on derivatives, the entire anti-Wall Street thrust, because these guys thrive on anti-government. Yeah, anti-government. The main problem with government is it's controlled by Wall Street. The Federal Reserve is what? The Federal Reserve is a tentacle of Wall Street in the government. Take it over. Even, on paper, it's taken over by Wall Street. The other event coming up is this Pittsburgh summit of the G20. That's the 24th to 25th of September now in Pittsburgh. The group of 20, this is essentially Finance Capital Summit at the Apex. There was one of these meetings in Washington last November. There was another meeting in London back in April. And it's also instructive, what are they doing? Right? People who spend a lot of time looking for what's new on the front of the Amero or something like this, you're letting them rob you blind, because what's going on, what's actually happening is not the Amero, it's special drawing rights, SDRs, and the worldwide economic dictatorship of the International Monetary Fund under Dominique Strauss-Kahn, former finance minister of France. And while you've been looking at the Amero, they've picked your pocket to the tune of $100 billion. $100 billion is the line of credit extended by the U.S. government, in fact, to the International Monetary Fund. Other governments, including China, have been blackmailed and cajoled and duped into putting money into the IMF. Most of this is going to be gone because it's a bankrupt institution. The IMF is a zombie bank, just in the same way that J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs are. It's a mechanism of control, not of bailing anybody out in terms of the underdeveloped countries. The bailout is for the City of London and Wall Street characters and their friends on the continent and elsewhere. So the special drawing rights and the IMF is what's actually happening in front of you. Up to $1 trillion of new cash put into the IMF, with the U.S. footing at least 10% of the bill. And that's your tax money. And that's not, the Amero hypothetical back burner, SDRs. That's what's happening from day to day and from week to week. So look at what they're doing to you now, not what they might do to you in some hypothetical future. So that's the 24th to 25th of September. We'll be back in a minute.